from memory, round one was meant to commence July, I think it was July 19th, somewhere around there. And then it actually got postponed. There was a spike of COVID cases, I think in the southwest of Sydney, which forced the competition to be postponed yet again. So we ended up putting together another trial match with 14 girls on that date. And then round two came about. We actually had a bye on round two, so we actually didn't kickstart our season until round three, which was versus Blue Mountains Kangaroos.
Does anyone...
Yeah.
Bridget, do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Try to convince us to let her go on the other team.
I felt really bad.
And we had one of our players, one of our forward line players, Bridget, coming up against her old team, which was going to be interesting.
Do any of you guys remember that game, like how much we ended up winning by?
Wasn't it like 160 to something, to like 2 or something?
That's what I thought it was. It was like 167 to 7 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Didn't we win by like a lot?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very like kind of just get warm sort of thing, like kind of game, like.
Yeah.
167 to 7 or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
But I know that everyone came on board, even the under 14s came on board for that game. Kira, do you remember involving yourself in that game, our first round?
I think the first one, most of it I just sat there because like I didn't really want to like intrude on your team, you know. So.
Oh, you weren't intruding.
Like,
you were helping.
Yeah, I know, but like I don't think I did much that first game. So.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember Bridget going over to Blue Mountains and playing for them in the last quarter and scoring. Did she score a goal for them?
I think so. I think she scored
Yeah.
a goal.
No,
Scored their own
yeah.
goal.
Point.
Sorry?
It was
What was
just
that?
point, guys. It wasn't too much.
She missed the goal.
One of their own.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, true, Bill. Yeah. She got her behind. Who did score the goal for them? I'm pretty sure
Olivia.
It was one of them.
Yeah, it was Olivia, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't go over to the other team.
Yeah, I think it might have been Olivia, but one of ours scored for them.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, you scored the goal. Bridget scored it behind.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think the end result was some ridiculous number like 167 to 7. It was just a massive blowout, but it's not good beating a team by that much. I mean, you do feel quite bad for the other team. You know, you don't want them to be discouraged from playing, but you don't want to hold back your own players either. You want them to play to the best of their ability, so you got to try and get that sort of delicate balancing act between being good sports and continuing to play the best that we can as well. Round 4 was the big one for us versus Camden Blues. Camden was the kind of team that will really test how you stand in the competition. I know we'd beaten them only once, I think, in the previous year, and then they'd beaten us twice. Certainly a very competitive team, but very good sports as well. We always enjoy playing Camden. They always play hard, but they play fair.
And you remember, Phoebe, that I gave you, because we're going for a specific defensive tactics, beat Camden, because we knew they were going to be competitive. And I gave you instruction right from that first ball up to race up from centre half back straight into where the ball up is and put pressure on, assuming that Camden was going to get the ball and put pressure straight on them.
I think I remember training for that.
Yeah, I remember training for it, and I do remember it. And I think by the end of the game, I was buggered from going straight and then running back and then doing it over and over again. But that tactic did come in handy, though, in the end, didn't it?
It worked straight from that first ball up.
I might show you if you can play that.
It was a game that we looked to try employing a few very specific tactics. we actually played quite a defensive style of game, given that we had a lot of inexperience on the field, especially in the midfield. There's a lot of very defensive tactics that we sort of tried, which seemed to actually work well.
Camden has always been one of those teams that we've had to look out for in the past. So coming up against them this year, just trying to work out where we stood and improve from there.
Another thing I was working on was, once again, Alicia, I remember having a conversation with you earlier in the season and you actually weren't a big fan of the physicality within the game.
Yep.
Yep. So I remember we actually worked on that specifically to try and because I can't remember why it was you said that you weren't as big a fan of the physical side of the game, the tackling and the bumping and everything. Yeah.
I don't remember either.
Yeah, I can't remember.
By the end of the season, I was a lot more physical in the game.
Yeah, I remember
At the start.
That's it. I remember we were specifically working on that. So I started working with specific players on different things I thought I could help out on. I remember actually pulling you aside before the Camden game and I said, within the first 5 minutes, try and pick your play, get out there and make a big play on someone, a big body bump or a big tackle. And that will get you into the game and raise your own confidence. And other team members will see that, especially being a leader, that will also lift them if they see someone like you getting in there and making a big play or whatever. And sure enough, within 2 minutes, you were down from the half forward line into the back line, looking to absolutely smash someone on that. It was brilliant. So it was the first sort of occasion where go to share screen. It was the first occasion where I started really working on individual players. How'd you feel going into the fullback position?
Oh, I think I was a bit injured that game, that's why I went in. But then, I don't know, I just felt like I knew what I was actually doing, even though I haven't played there. I don't know, it feels good to stop them from scoring, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was alright with it.
It's a completely different role, obviously from what you're used to. And I just figured from my point of view, knowing that you're a centre, and I had actually seen you play the previous years, but I figured as a centre, obviously you're so used to being on the ball, being a key playmaker. It's a very split-second position kind of area to play, both attack and defence. And I kind of figured that could act as be quite kind of an advantage in the fullback. That last line of defence also enabled us to counter-attack with brutal efficiency, get the ball straight back out of that back 50. And that's why I figured it worked perfectly.
Yeah, and every other sport I played before AFL was always defence, so it's just as soon as it clicked, it was good.
They turned up, I think on the day they turned up with 14 players. I don't know whether they had issues with getting their full squad together on that day. We ended up going into the game with our 13 core members, plus getting assistance from the under 14 girls playing up. So I think we went in with about 20 from memory.
And the fun thing is that live up in full forward for most of the season until the last couple of rounds, which you're actually not the right choice for a full forward. Usually you go for one of your top players. Sorry, Luke. You're not quite that tall. But the interesting thing is you actually acted more like a forward line on baller. So you had the likes of Alicia, Bridget and Belle, who are reasonably tall as the key targets. Yeah. And you're, if the ball came to ground, you're the one who was, most, I guess, energetic in getting that ball off the ground. And quite often you're having two, sometimes you're kind of having two defenders on you at once. Yeah. And it used to look like a massive mismatch too.
Yeah, the fullbacks were always very big compared to me, but then I just found I didn't actually mind it because I just knew that they were slower than me, so I could just run away.
Yeah, you just burn them. that's
That was always my reassurance that I could turn on.
That's
Yeah.
the problem. You just run rings around it, which was awesome. How did you go with that game, the Camden? Any thoughts on that game?
I actually thought it, like, just the way that we all just gelled together sort of thing, like after only playing like one game and a trial game, and like just how we went under pressure. And yeah, like even in full forward you could see like everything, like how everything went, and then we also got to see like how Camden played as well, which was good. So yeah,
That's it.
it was a good game.
So yeah, Camden was always going to be a big test for us, and we ended up passing the test. We ended up winning that game 61-26, and it was a good win. It was a very strong win. So at that point, we sort of realised, okay, this team is a real deal. They're a very good chance at going through to the big game, to the grand final. But there was one other team that we had to come up against yet just to see how we were going to go, and that was Morecambe Hills.
But it was after that Camden game that I actually started talking to McKenna about the song. The song.
Yeah.
So it was after the Camden game when I realised that, okay, we were a fair chance at going to a grand final at the very least here. That I came up with this idea, and I first discussed it with McKenna, this idea of writing and recording a song.
I wasn't against the idea. I thought it was an interesting one. Something that, again, hasn't been done before. So working out the logistics, I didn't expect it to be so good.
And the idea was, writing a song to pump up the team on grand final week should we make it there, but also act as kind of like a tribute to the team. It was something so out of the box, out of left field. It's got nothing to do with AFL, but there's sort of a little bit of a shock tactic to it as well. Because I wasn't going to tell the team about it. I was just going to surprise them.
What do you guys remember about grand final week?
Your song,
We talked about that earlier.
the pump up song before the grand final.
And have them sort of think, we've got a coach that will literally do anything for us. We actually wrote a song for us to, motivate us and pump us up. I kind of figured it might give them the psychological edge. And I showed McKenna a couple of songs, and she ended up picking one that she liked. So we went with it, and I thought, all right, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to take it into the studio, then I need to start working now, because these things don't happen overnight. And it could be a very costly process as well in the end. So yeah, I started, luckily enough, there's a studio just nearby in South Windsor, near to where I live, which I took advantage of and made the booking and started on that particular journey.
To tell you the truth, I never really knew the whole way through when I was recording it whether it was going to come off as what I wanted it to be for the team, whether the team were going to dig it. I didn't even know whether I was going to be able to pull it off, to tell you the truth, because, you're taking it into a proper recording studio and everything.
So I remember the first day actually heading into the recording studio, and I think a lot of the time was actually spent with setup. It was probably an hour or a couple of hours just setting up the drum kit and miking it up and everything. But I remember laying down drum tracks. I think I put down the 2 rhythm guitars, and that was pretty much all the time I had that Good to actually get a start and get a feel for the project and see how it was going to turn out. The song didn't even have lyrics at that point in time. It was just music. So we get to round 6, and the only other team we needed to really test ourselves against, I felt, was Borkham Hills. That was a team we actually hadn't played them in the previous year. We played them in the first year that McKenna was involved, and we didn't beat them then from memory. And you know, Borkham Hills always field very good teams, very strong teams. Didn't know too much about their team that year. But I knew we were in for a strong competition, and we're playing on their oval as well, which we'd never actually gotten a win.
It was also challenging from the point of view that when we're going in a particular direction, we had strong headwind, and we saw signs of everyone on the field really starting to think about, okay, instead of trying to kick against the wind, there was a favourite passage play of mine where it was Belle, Lucia, Ariana, I think Lauren, running up on the middle of the field, handballing to each other, and I thought that was promising because it showed everyone thinking on their feet about tactics. It's like, let's not kick into the wind, let's do this instead. And it nearly paid off. There were so many times where things nearly paid off for us in that game. It was so close.
Very close game. It really could have gone either way right to the end. They're such a strong team. They don't let up. They've got, you know, high level of skills in areas that in some of the areas that we don't, but you know, we also got, I guess, a certain level of skill in areas that they don't, so it literally could have gone either way. And I remember it got down to the one and only goal of the game wasn't even kicked until literally the last 30 seconds. But of course, at the end of that game, we copped one of, we actually copped a couple of injuries throughout that game. We had Ariana, our captain, who had sustained a shoulder injury, which had, from memory, it impacted on her quite a lot. I think she came off the field for, I think, at least half the game, from memory. Tiana, one of our backline members, had copped a bit of a head knock. That certainly impacted on her for a little while. It was a very physical game. And then right at the end, Phoebe unfortunately got a body bump just in the process of kicking, and as her support foot was coming back down, she ended up twisting her knee. We thought it was, when we first saw it, we thought it was literally a season-ending injury, just with the way she landed.
And then Phoebe, right at the end of the game.
Oh no.
Do you remember that? Did you see the video for that?
Yes, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I even showed my aunt that, and she wasn't very happy. But you know, it happens.
Your aunt was the one who was videoing it.
I know.
The camera.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it was so shaky because I just wanted to get to you, and I'm like, it's all good. I'm here. I'm alive. It's all good.
We were close, so seeing one of them hurt, it doesn't make you mad, but there's that side of you that really just wants to help them and do everything that you can to kind of make their injury worth it in a way. You don't like to see them down, so you try and take out that anger, I guess, into the game and put it into a more positive release.
Well, basically shoulder charge or whatever it is, shoulder charge.
Yeah. That's it. It was pretty brutal. But and that was when they scored their one and only goal.
Yeah.
We had two players, Tim to Phoebe. Mind you, you look back at the video, you can see Sienna doing absolutely everything she could to stop that goal. It was just... She was, screaming in pain on the ground, and that was within the last 30 seconds. We had to wait for a good hour, I think, for the ambulance to come to collect her. It's not a great thing, especially as a coach, seeing that happen to your players. That's when you realise that you were literally sending them out to war, sending them out to do battle, and knowing that they could risk quite serious injury out there. So, you don't take that lightly.
It's okay. All I remember is wanting the green whistle and the dog.
Yeah.